Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Cecilia, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you have joined us for our next live presentation from TRU Precious Metals. Please note, you can submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Joel Fordman, co-founder, CEO, and director of TRU Precious Metals, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol TRUIF and on the TSXV under the symbol TRU. Welcome, Joel.
Thank you, Cecilia, for inviting me. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in this morning. Since I've already been introduced, I will dive into my presentation. But I think one thing that's kind of interesting to me to start this presentation off with is our OTCQB ticker symbol, TRUIF. And I think the question you should be asking yourself during this presentation is, what if it really happens for TRU? And I'm going to explain why over the course of this presentation. But thank you for making the time to join me here. TRU Precious Metals, this is a company I founded 4 years ago. It's been growing since then. And we are working on high-grade gold and high-grade copper discoveries in Newfoundland. Newfoundland's a province on the east coast of Canada towards the northeast of the United States. We've got our disclaimers. Keep in mind there will be some forward-looking information in this presentation. Do your own research, decide accordingly. What's really interesting about TRU Precious Metals, there's a whole slew of factors, but I'll rifle through a couple of highlights right off the top. Number one would be our land position in Newfoundland. Kind of like real estate in geology, location is everything. You want to be in the right area to actually have mineralization or to be able to find commodities of value like gold and copper. We're in the right neighborhood, as I'll get to in the presentation. We own 100% of the vast majority of our project. We also have some option land, but otherwise we own the entire project. So we have very good control of really all the land between our two major neighbors, which I'll speak to, but we're basically sandwiched between two gold deposits and we own or control all the land between the two of them. It's a great land package. We have high grade gold on the property. Grade is very important, especially in a period of inflation and rising costs of mining. You want high grade gold. That's quite important. As I mentioned, we also have high grade copper, which is a critical mineral. Copper is quite important for the electrification of the economy, things like electric vehicle batteries, solar panels. And so it's really nice, actually, in our case, to have copper as well as gold on the property, a real nice critical minerals kicker to our project. Shareholder base, specifically institutional ownership. Well, we're very fortunate to have attracted a bunch of great partners to this company. Most sizably, Ormond Mining, who's our controlling investor. They are a mining company based in Europe. But in addition, we also have Altius Minerals, billion-dollar TSX-listed project generator and royalty company, very sophisticated. And Eric Sprott, many of you probably know, Canadian precious metals billionaire. Those are our top three shareholders in order. And number four is myself, Joel, as the CEO. I also own about 4% of the company. So you have heavy institutional ownership and insider ownership owning half the company. Really good starting point because basically the smart money in terms of those institutions is in the deal already. And finally, we have an experienced team. A bunch of us have been here, myself, the president, CFO, some of our technical people for quite a while. So we have a nice cohesive team. That's true in a nutshell, but I will dive into some more detail here. I'll go through a couple of corporate points. Myself, Joel, some of you may have seen me before. I'm actually a securities and mergers attorney by training. That's my background. Not a geologist, I'm not a broker. I'm more of a transactional lawyer by training. I now run my own merchant bank, doing transactions in the microcap space. So very transactionally oriented CEO. And I also look at this like a business as opposed to simply a science project. Like we have to be careful with our treasury. We have to be very targeted with our exploration. It's important to raise enough capital to sustain the business. We need a good shareholder base. These are things that I think maybe I bring to the table that not every junior mining CEO would bring. Our president and CFO, Olga Nikitovich, she started her career at PricewaterhouseCoopers. It's one of the big four accounting firms for years. And so she's also leading all the operations for us. Again, very sophisticated professional management. We have some great directors. I don't have time for it all, but I think two personnel I should touch on in this presentation. Number one, our project evaluations advisor, Garth Earls. Garth comes to us by way of our strategic investor, Ormond Mining, who own about 36% of the company. Garth is a mine finder. Garth is based in Northern Ireland. He helped discover the Curragh gold mine in Northern Ireland. I think it's a 6 million ounce mine, monster mine. Garth was heavily involved in the technical due diligence that Ormond did in TRU before investing $3 million into TRU late last year to become our controlling shareholder. And so you have to think, if someone with that pedigree liked our project the best to have Ormond invest in it, he must know something and he must see the potential of our Golden Rose project. So I think that's really critical. And in addition, we have another gentleman on our board, Steve Nickel. Well, Steve's a mining engineer and a mine builder. He's literally put a mine into production in Spain. I think it was tungsten and other base metals over 10 years. So this is someone with a commercial focus, understands operations. He was also involved in Ormond's due diligence on TRU. And so this is a second industry veteran who looked at our project from all kinds of angles. I can tell you it's very intensive due diligence. And he said, yes, I give this project a check. In fact, we should be investing in this company over all the other companies we've looked at. And so again, there are a number of technical experts, more so than what the CEO tells you, quite frankly. There are a number of technical experts who've done heavy-duty technical due diligence on our project, and they like the geological potential of Golden Rose for major discoveries, and you hope one day eventually deposits, mines, the real kind of big-ticket things down the road. So we're not there yet, but the right people are seeing that potential in our project. I think that's important, as a takeaway. Cap structure, we have about 165 million shares out. We have market cap only about Canadian $4 to $5 million, depending on the day. Since this is in the US, probably $3.5 million US. Very, very cheap. Every CEO will tell you that. I own 6 million shares of the company at much higher prices. So I'm very much scrapping to ensure that my investment is worth something meaningful here. I think that should be some comfort. Unlike most junior mining companies, we're also very well capitalized with that share float. We have over $2 million Canadian in the bank. Very fortunate position to be in. Most of that comes from this Ormond strategic investment late last year. And so we're well capitalized in an industry in which it is difficult to raise money. I think that's a huge differentiator for us. We don't have to go to market anytime soon, not only to sustain our corporate operations, but also to run our exploration program. And then just to speak on shareholder base again as well, institutions own about half the stock. So there'll be Ormond with 36%, Altius 5%, Sprott 5%, and myself probably 3.5% to 4%. But we should get into the project, which is ultimately going to be the value driver, no matter how much cash we have or how good the management is. What you really want is a project that has multiple potential upside in terms of discoveries. And so our Golden Rose project is really in the right neighborhood, in the right province. Newfoundland's a very favorable mining jurisdiction, very mining friendly. Having worked there for 4 years now, although I'm Toronto based, I go over there probably once or twice a year to see the project, meet the government officials. I got a meeting with the minister on 1 week's notice. Like, you can get business done in mining in Newfoundland. Very important. The reason that's important is when bigger companies look at our project to get involved, they want to know, could this ever become a mine? First, geologically, does it have the potential? I think we're starting to see enough yes answers to that. And second, could we actually get this permitted, advanced, become a mine? And Newfoundland's a great place for that. But very specific to our location, even within Newfoundland, as I've touched on before, we are right between two major gold deposits. On the northeast of us, there's this blue area here. That's Calibre Mining. Calibre is $1 billion plus gold producer. They just bought out our neighbor Marathon Gold in January for $340 million Canadian, probably 275 million US, give or take. Major public company acquisition. They've moved in. They're aggressively advancing this Valentine Gold project next to us. They're literally building the mine now. They're 3/4 of the way finished. They will be pouring gold in commercial production in the first half of 2025. So there's literally a monster gold mine coming on stream right next door to us. And by the way, our project has its own geological merits. You should not invest just based on our neighbors. We are doing real things on the project, but it's a nice to have knowing there's this potential right next door. And on the other side of us, southwest of us, you see this red stripe. That's Matador Mining. They're now called Omega. They have 600,000 ounces of gold. So you have gold deposits on both sides of us and interest all along the same structural corridor. Technically, it's a geological fault. But what that means is we're on the main street in Newfoundland, and the biggest houses in the province are on either side of our house. Definitely you want to be the smallest house in the biggest neighborhood with the nicest homes. Great place to be for real estate value. That's how we see our project from a geological level. And interestingly, both Calibre, this blue, and Omega, the red, they don't have a single pit or deposit. they have a series of deposits all the way up and down their project. It's like a string of pearls. And so if you look at this as a necklace, you say, well, this necklace runs for 40 kilometers, probably about 30-ish miles through TRU Precious Metals Gold and Rose project. So you have to think that there's going to be some pearls on the TRU project, and I can tell you we're already seeing evidence of it. I'll speak to that in this presentation. These are our two neighbors, as I mentioned. If you're interested, check out our website. You can go look up the neighbors. These are real companies with real resources, and Calibre Mining is building a mine that will be producing next year. So we're very much in the right area. What does Golden Rose and TRU Precious Metals have to offer you that you don't say, well, I should invest in those other companies? We have the, I would say, potential for exponential upside based on exploration and drilling and really blowing open a discovery at the Golden Rose project. We're right on the cusp of that. For any of you who are familiar with the Lassonde curve, where you want to invest in a junior mineral exploration company is right when they're starting to see the inclinations of a discovery, but before they've really blown the roof off it and everyone knows of it. You want to get in when people are still saying, well, I don't know, I'm not sure. Right before people sit up, take notice, say, wow, this is real, it's happening before our eyes. And I'm telling you, based on what's going on with the company, that could happen any day now. So, make your own decisions, do your own research, but sometimes these developments come out of the blue and you won't be expecting them. So we've got great neighbors who are much larger than us in terms of market cap, speaking to the upside potential. What's our project going to do to deliver returns for shareholders? Keeping in mind we're capitalized so we can actually run the work I'm going to talk about here. We don't need money in order to do this. Project's very large, about 260 square kilometers, plus some option land, probably about 300 square kilometers. Forgive me if I can't immediately translate that to miles, probably about 200 square miles. And we have both high-grade gold and high-grade copper, as I previously discussed. The gold is the most interesting thing. It's primarily a gold project. And really, it's this North Cod gold zone that our team discovered in late 2022 and expanded in 2023 that, from my seat as CEO, I've seen has really opened up the project to a new set of eyes. And I don't just mean investors, I mean industry. The companies that could come in and do an option agreement, an M&A deal with TRU, that could buy our project outright. That's the kind of interest we've been seeing from industry for the last year and a half based on these channel samples. Channel sampling is like horizontal drilling at surface. It's kind of a cheaper, faster, but still reliable way to get a rough handle on what's going on here. So we did this program in late 2022 and followed it up in 2023. And we have very high-grade gold. I'd say bonanza-grade gold, not that that's a technical term, 20, 30, 40, 50 grams a ton of gold over 1.5 to 2.5 meters. To give you some frame of reference, medium-grade gold is 1.5 to 5 grams. And TRU has anywhere from 20 to 140 grams a ton. So you're talking like a 10, 20x multiple of the grades that most mining companies would be happy to see. To be clear, we still have to drill the project. We don't know that it's absolutely everywhere, but we've seen continuity of enough of it to indicate there's definitely a stretch, which seems to be hundreds of meters, in which we have this high-grade gold. And then there's also medium-grade gold and low-grade gold out to the sides. So it's not going to ever be the whole thing, just one very high number, but it's continuous for a long extent, which means it could not have come from above. It must have come from below. So we know there's gold in the ground. Now it's a matter of drilling out these targets, which is actually something we've been spending months on this year to really show, well, what's under the ground here? What do we really have? Is there size? Is there more of the high grade? If that goes even remotely in our favor, probably blows things wide open for the company, for our share price, generally for interest in the company from a corporate transactional perspective. And so I think that's what you should be looking out for in the coming days, weeks, and months. That's the North Cod Gold Zone again, prime area on the project on the northeast. In addition, though, and you can see from this map, very large project, we have a massive pipeline of gold and critical minerals targets across the project. So in the northeast, you can see there's some red dots here. Marks Pond was where there's the high-grade gold. Marks Pond, Northcott, that area is the high-grade gold. Great starting point. There's medium and high-grade gold and a number of other targets in the vicinity. If you look to the northeast, Rich House, Ryan's Hammer, those all, if you look to the southwest, Woods Lake, you see we have gold grades, 9 grams, 10 grams a ton. So there's kind of gold everywhere you look on this property. I've been there. I've seen a prospector literally fit like sieve gold out of our trenches, out of a channel sample that had been filled with water and is filled with visible gold. So the stuff is there. I've seen it with my own eyes. What you have to go based off of is not only technical expertise of other people, but also sample assay results. They've been going to independent labs. So we have medium and high grade gold all across the property. Don't know yet if it's a deposit, don't know yet if it's a mine, but we have all the smoke that you're looking for where there should be fire. And in addition, as I mentioned, we have high grade copper. So if you look kind of the north center, Jacob's Pond, well, we have high grade copper there. Copper grades, by the way, you would hope to get 0.5 to 1.5%. Well, we have copper that's 1.5%, 7%. We had samples in that area from prior years, 10%, 12%, 14%. These are ridiculous copper grades. And in an environment in which copper prices up until the last month have been, really picking up and everyone's competing for copper exposure, including gold majors, this is a really nice kicker to have on the True Precious Metals Gold and Rose project. Significant copper exposure. We also, by the way, have zinc, lead, and nickel, which I didn't even know until 3 months ago. And it's actually not that anomalous because further northeast of us, there used to be massive base metals mines. So it's actually not unrealistic that we could have a significant amount of base metals on a project. But really what you should be thinking is, great, high grade gold, high grade copper. This is the kind of thing that large gold companies will be looking at to add to their portfolios when TRU is still small, undervalued, not very well known. You should be thinking that as an investor in terms of when you make your move on a company like this. Just to speak a bit more to the copper, we did drilling previously. This is a nice, pretty map with colors. The gist of it is anywhere pink is high prospectivity based on mag anomalies. It looks good for things like specifically copper. We did hit high-grade copper in drilling here, about 1% to 2% over several meters at the bottom of a few holes. So it's not a one-off. More drilling is needed. Again, we're funded to do a drill program, and we are internally planning a significant drill program for both gold and copper targets. What we want to do with a drill program like that, and I would say it's probably coming up in the next anywhere from 3 to 9 months. We want to make sure we're ready. It could be next quarter. We want to see how the market goes. We want to make sure that the money's well spent. And most importantly, we're not looking to pull out one good hole and say, press release the market. We got one good hole. That's all there is to the project. What we want to do is go elephant hunting. What we want to do is have a well-designed drill program where we put in the minimum number of holes at the minimum cost that tag the maximum size of good grades where people say, wow, this is the type of thing where these guys could have something very, very serious here that a larger company would get interested in. And for those of you who are technically oriented, take a look yourself, see what you think. And if you're not, again, you're kind of trying to follow the smart money. Say Ormond came in, Eric Sprott, Altius Minerals. There's enough technical due diligence that's been done by real industry players and investors on this company that these guys must be onto something. Otherwise, they wouldn't have attracted the partnerships. I'll kind of breeze through this. There's another, back to this pearls analogy I gave earlier, the string of pearls. So maybe I'll just hop back for a moment. This North Cod Gold Zone, think about this as one pearl on the property. So we already know there's one pearl running across the TRU property. You can see the size here. So we have one pearl here at Marks Pond in the northeast. And on the southwest at Woods Lake, we have another pearl. This is lower to medium grade. We did a drill program a couple of years ago when we were just getting started. And we were hitting gold in almost every single hole. So if you're interested, you can go look at the gold grades there. Call it 1 to 2 grams a ton, 10 to 20 meters. They're not bad intercepts. They're not going to blow the roof off of things, but it's also enough to show there's really gold here, and here it's in quantity. And if you look at our neighbors, Calibre Mining and Omega, their gold deposits are based on 1.5 to 2.5 grams a ton of gold. So if we're finding significant drill hits for 1.5, 2 grams a ton of gold, that's actually very much in the ballpark of what our neighbors are doing. And one of our neighbors is building a mine based on those grades. So we've got, we got lots of smoke on the property that we're only starting to firm up. This is what it looks like, again, if you're technically oriented. But if you're not, you just look at the picture and say, all this yellow and orange in the bottom left picture, that's where there's indications of gold. And you can see it's starting to look like, although it's not there, it's starting to look like a deposit. So we just haven't done the proper scientific process in order to put out a report saying it's a deposit. But you can see there's a pearl on the property, however you want to call it. So in summary, True Precious Metals, what makes us an interesting investment case versus all the other juniors out there? I know it's a crowded field. Number 1, high-grade gold. Number 2, high-grade copper. Number 3, strategic investor who put millions of dollars in the company. Number 4, major institutional shareholders. Number 5, you got a CEO and management team and technical experts who are very vested in the project. So you have people who are showing up to work every day, hustling to move this up the field. make sure the company stays in good standing and attacks the project properly, diligently, cost effectively. That's True Precious Metals. I think with that, I think that concludes my presentation. Let me just check here if there are any questions that have been submitted to the company. Okay, there are a number of questions, so let me do my best to tackle these ones. I'll just kind of go in the order in which they're received. Can you speak to when larger shareholders came in via equity? Have they come in on future rounds? What's total insider ownership? Let me see. So the initial investors came in when gold was taking off immediately after the pandemic in 2021. Altius optioned the property. That's when they got their stake. They have held they have 10 million shares, 5%. They've held their position for 3 years, even though the share price has gone down, which, by the way, is not unique. Look at any other gold junior, except one that's currently in the midst of massive drilling and massive discovery. Share price trajectories are on all of these companies are right now similar, although you're seeing signs of life with the higher gold price. And we're intending to take some matters into our own hands. We're doing some things like buying back shares, looking for larger partners, certainly planning our exploration program. We're doing the right preparatory steps to make sure that we can give our best shot to get the share price going and at least fundamentally move the company. Altius, as a large shareholder, sees this. That's why they continue to own their entire position for 3 years. Even though the share price has not gone in the direction eventually that they wanted, they continue to be a large shareholder. The same for Eric Sprott. Eric Sprott came in at, I think, in the mid-20s for a multi-million-dollar position, still holds the entire position. And I will tell you as a fact, firsthand, they cull their positions annually. So if these guys did not want to be in TRU, they would have been gone 2 or 3 years ago. The fact they hold their position and vote in favor of management at the AGMs is an ongoing vote of confidence. And then most recently, Ormond Mining, they came in with $3 million Canadian last September. They invested at 5 cents. They obviously hold their entire position. They're the controlling shareholder. So they very much believe in what we're doing here at the company. They're helping us advance the company. And I myself, I'll tell you, I bought shares from 22 cents, 12 cents, and I bought a whole whack last year in a financing, a very, very sizable amount at 5 cents. So I'm very vested in the company. I haven't sold shares because I believe in what we're doing, and I have the best visibility, keep in mind, of what's going on inside the company. Total insider ownership is probably around 5-ish%, and then you have these other larger institutions. So you're probably looking at about 50% between 3 institutions and the CEO. Why did Altius option the property? So Altius is their business model. You can look them up on the TSX. Ticker symbol is ALS. $1 billion Canadian market cap. These guys are multiple people have described them to me as like the shrewdest guys in mining, at least in Canada. I would concur. They know what they're doing. Their business model is a project generator and royalty business. So what they do is they have an army of very talented geologists. They find projects in bear markets when most juniors, like even today, cannot afford to keep them. TRU is different, as you can see. And they will snap those properties up. And then when the market gets good, they'll deal those properties out to juniors like TRU, so that TRU takes on the financing risk, the exploration risk, and Altius is there, and they have a royalty and they have a large equity position. So they benefit if we get the job done right. And if we don't, then all they've lost is the equity and the property, and it is what it is. Most companies, that's the case. Not in the case of True Precious Metals, because obviously we're still here, we're well financed, we're advancing the project. Altius owns all the shares. So that's a real vote of confidence from them. And I think also as an investor, you might say, well, if Altius, they sold you the property for shares, sure, but that means their shares are only really worth money if we discover something on the property. So they don't have, these guys are not small time. They're not here to make $50,000, selling us a garbage property. These guys hunt for properties that can be economically viable mines where they'll start getting paid out on their royalties. And that's where they really make the money. So they find the best properties they can, and they only trade them to companies who they think will have the best shot of getting those projects in the right direction to discovery and ideally one day to production. So that's, again, why it's a huge vote of confidence for us having Altius still in the project. Let's see. Where does the company stand on the NCIB? Why is the company not buying more shares at the low discounted on sale prices? That's actually, not quite correct. If you look at our financial statements, you'll see we've been aggressively buying back shares under the issuer bid, including fairly recently. I would suggest you take a look at our financial statements where we have to disclose our issuer bid purchases, and in multiple of our press releases, we've disclosed progress on the issuer bid. We've taken in total probably 4 million shares, about 2% of the float. So we actually have been buying back stock. We also want to make sure we have money for exploration, but we have very much been buying in shares. Another question. To date, TRU has spent $6 million for exploration expenditures on the Golden Rose property. When does TRU plan to have drill targets identified? So this is a good question. This is a very good question. I would say, quite frankly, we made the mistake in 2021 when I first started. I was learning the industry, and we went and drilled Woods Lake, and we got pretty good numbers. As you can see, like I said, they're comparable to our neighbors. But we didn't discover anything new and big enough that a whole new crop of investors and industry came to the project. They said, you basically proved what you thought was there. You got it. You basically proved that. That was $1.5 million drill campaign. That's a lot of money. So right now we have $2 million in the bank. We do have to be mindful of it, right? We can't go spend it all on issuer bid. We can't go spend it all on drilling. We do have to pay. There is corporate salaries. There are public company costs. There are legal fees. Like, these are the realities of a public company. And so what we've been doing since, I would say, March, which is about 4 months, is having Garth Earls, who's our project evaluations advisor, in excruciating detail that I cannot even adequately describe in the next 4 minutes, look over the entire project top to bottom, which they did for our first pass level before investing in TRU. Basically, does the project have the potential? And since then, what they've done is, like, they've looked at all the historical data, they've talked to our staff geologists, and they're plotting out what are the highest targets on the entire property, even places where they've done work. As you can imagine, for a property that's 300 square kilometers, that does not happen overnight. You can't just say, well, we're going to drill here because there's high-grade gold and we'll get one hit. Again, our goal is not to put out one good drill hit or two. Our goal is to hit things that are to hit intercepts specifically of high-grade and medium-grade gold mineralization that have the potential for an economically viable deposit. That is the objective. That takes months and months of preparation. And so Garth, as well as our geologists on our team, looked over the entire project top to bottom. This is the process. Prioritized targets across the entire project, looked at all the corroborating data to say how many soil samples, geophysics, how much data do we have to support ranking and prioritizing all these targets. And then once we honed into our top 10, 15, 20 targets, then they're still shortlisting it further. Where exactly do we stick the drill holes? Because you have to consider the drills are so narrow on a huge property that even if we have the mother lode and we miss by a meter, everyone will say, well, the project's no good. And so to avoid that risk on $1 million drill program where we'll have 10, 12, 15 holes, we want to be very, very sure as much as possible that we put a lot of thought into it. That process is nearly done. I would say it's been 4 or 5 months in the making at least. And we're also evaluating copper targets. I would say either realistically, the times we most likely drill would be either this fall or winter starts. You can drill in winter, but it gets a bit messy. So maybe kind of the dead of winter when everything's frozen over like Q1. Those are realistically our drilling windows. One other thing we have to consider as a public company, if we drill right now and the market is not paying attention or everyone's in vacation and we get great numbers and it's missed, has that really helped us in the share price? Have we done anything for our investors? Because we also want to make sure the market takes notice. And so the best time to put out results is when the market's paying attention and industry is paying attention, probably not in the dead of summer. But as I can tell you there, we've got 2 windows coming up for drilling. They're both in the next 3 to 9 months. So this is very much underway. Let's see. Do I have other questions here? Milestones over the next 12 months. Great questions. So I would say, really, because we have limited time left, corporate and transactional. We're well capitalized, I would say, in terms of exploration front. Finish the internal planning around the drill program. Straight up, it's not that exciting to the market, but it must be done for us to be successful, and launch a drill program either in, like I said, fall or in Q1. So that would be the major exploration milestone. We should have copper results rolling out over the summer. And on the corporate front, I can tell you since March, we've been talking to a number of companies much larger than us around corporate transactions. That can happen anytime. It could happen any day now. Put TRU on your watch list. Consider taking a starter position. Watch and see if we deliver on the corporate front. I will tell you again, I'm a transactional lawyer. We closed the Ormond strategic investment before. We closed an Altius transaction in 2021. Closed a Sprott financing in 2021. We do get deals done when the opportunity is there, and you can be assured that's still the case. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I appreciate you paying attention. Keep an eye on TRUIF.